All right, all right, all right. Welcome back. We're back with another week of Game Masters Arsenal, and like the description says, and as you guys know, this week, of course, we're pulling from the Monster Manual, and we're going back to some basics as we talk about the Red Cap. Don't mind me. Huh, I am just trying to get some stuff worked out on my system. Get you guys your stat box. Now, we're doing something different because normally on Game Masters Arsenal, we'll talk about one monster and from one book. And I actually want to talk about two because I think it's very interesting that these two creatures can go hand in hand. Of course, I'm discussing the red caps from both the Monster Manual and 5th edition, D&D 5e, and the red cap from the red cap from the Tome of Beasts. And my entire thing just decided, you know what? The red cap is taking over. This is what happens when we start dealing with Fae. They start taking over. And the Fae are causing problems. Always are. Fae are always causing problems. Don't you guys know that? What is the Lion Drake doing back? I do not know what the Lion Drake is. Wow, my system is going nuts today. It just does not like red caps. And I can live with that because I don't like red caps either. Now if you play Baldur's Gate, I know I never bring up Baldur's Gate 3, and uh, there's a reason for that. Because when you start taking comparisons to Baldur's Gate 3, you run into some issues because the game is so tightly paced with great voice acting and everything, but it's too good. And I'm not gonna go any beyond that. And your player shouldn't have the expectation of Baldur's Gate, but this is where a lot of D&D players will have experience with them. They're the red caps that serve the hag. Now, red caps in general, um, red caps do serve creatures like hags quite often, but there's reason for that. So, red caps, if you don't know what a red cap is a type of fae. Now, it spawns from pool of blood in the ground, from a grisly murder. And he just took over my screen again. Um, wow, we are just being invaded by red caps. Okay. Um, but they're spawned in from the dead. They come up. Their hat is covered in blood. In earlier editions, it's not as clear in 5e. They need to soak it every 3 days or they die. In 5e, it mentions this briefly. They have to commit murders, and that is their goal, which makes them very simple creatures. This is another one of those simple creatures, well made. And the reason why I say we need to bring up Tome of Beasts and Monster Manual is because these two are very different same creature, different abilities. And because of that, I think one can act as a commander to the other. Whereas like a bunch of red caps. Now, red caps are CR come on. Red caps are CR3 base. The one in Tome of Beasts is CR6 because of its additional abilities. Now, red caps as a whole, uh, we're going back to our basics with our normal structure. We are going through their story purposes, the different characters you can create with them, and then, of course, how to use them in combat. Combat will be the easiest things for these guys because they don't have a lot of abilities. It's going to come in strategy because these are intelligent creatures. Now, the whole thing about red caps, when you're building your story about red caps, most of the time they're going to be a problem. A town has suffered a grisly murder out on the outskirts, and now travelers are being attacked and killed on their way in. Oftentimes, every few days, they go out and they find bodies. And of course, you send the party to investigate. Now, when the party goes out to investigate, they might discover one of their hats, or maybe the iron boots, or even a slain red cap. Now, that is an easy story. That's a quick, low character level CR3, which means you can send your starting party of level 3 into a red cap encounter where there's a single red cap. Now, the issue with red caps and where their story kind of diversifies is when you start adding them in number. Because red caps, again, are simple creatures. Their goal is to commit murder. Their goal is to kill. That's it. They need to soak their hat in blood every 3 days or else they cease to be. 5E states that they cease that it's as if they never existed. They kinda sprout up like mushrooms, and then boom, you have a red cap whose only goal is to murder. Now, the red cap, if it's a single red cap, it can be a simple hunting exercise, "We're going out to kill this red cap." Well, what if they find this red cap and the red cap is seeking out the one who did the murder that created it? Because oftentimes red caps do that. Red caps will seek out the person who committed the grisly murder that created them, either if offered and sufficiently persuaded to act as servants of, assuming there's more murder to be done, or eh, or to kill them. Um, which means you can create very interesting stories when they go to hunt this monster and they discover there's another monster there, and this monster is hunting this worse monster, and this worst monster just so happens to be a person, and in the end, it's either a trap, the person needs to, the red cap is on the person's side, both of them are planning on murdering another person. Now, like I said, the complexity with red caps is when they get into groups, because when they get into groups, they're smart enough to form a pseudo hierarchy. Not not as complicated as like a Yuan-Ti hierarchy or a goblin hierarchy, but a simple, we need somebody to lead us. And oftentimes they seek out a stronger creature to lead them. Um, because when the murder is bad enough, you can have multiple red caps spawn, and they all kind of spawn in, pop up from the ground and go, well, we're gonna go commit murder. And people go, huh. Well, if these red caps are causing problems, they're jumping out. They're gonna be bandits in the jungle most of the time, bandits in the forest. But when they get a group and they find someone to serve, they're like, "Oh, great. Now we have a small unit." They could be assisting bandits, they could be just assisting some evil thing like a hag. They oftentimes are found in service to hags. So if you find red caps, in a swamp, in a forest, there's odds that there's a hag nearby. Um, and especially if they say they're in service to this hag. Now, hags are their own beast. We'll be talking about them in a bit, but hags are their own creature. Um, red caps, on the other hand, story wise, they're they're either the starting mission where you go out and you hunt the red cap and you find out there's like a hag in the woods or something, or they're the ones that lead you to the villain. They're never the villain. Red caps, because of the CR3, unless you're CR1 and it just so happens red caps are what you're hunting and there's a red cap and a bunch of goblins, and it's like, okay, well, the red cap shouldn't be leading the troop. Red caps are followers by design. Now, when I talk about why they form a pseudo hierarchy, this is because there's an easy way to distinguish them. The Tome of Beasts red cap is significantly stronger than the base red cap. Now, because the Tome of Beast red cap is stronger than the base red cap, it can act as a pseudo leader while they're hunting um, out their leader, their true leader, or the murderer, or when they get together, they need a group, and the strongest one can take a command role. I actually think they have a higher intelligence too, which means guess what? They're smarter. They can act as your battlefield commander, but they're not the lead from the back commander. They're a lead from the front commander. Um, and that gets into the combat. When you're designing red caps, they're bloodthirsty. Uh, a fun way to introduce a red cap character to your party is if your party are murder hobos. An easy way to let them know that they're murder hobos is the most innocent one, the one who's there for the murders, has helped in combat, has done everything like that. Well, you simply have a red cap show up one day and start following him, and that's because the red cap shows up and everyone goes, "This thing's evil. This is a red cap. It only wants to kill. Are we the baddies?" And it can help you get your characters to question. Now, the red cap personality should be that of an evil character. It wants to kill. It wants to cause mayhem. It's not here for a good time. It's not here for a long time. It's here to cause chaos. And because of that, the party can go, "I didn't think we were this bad." Or if you're playing with a good party, um, introducing a red cap to the party can be like, did we do the wrong thing? When a red cap shows up after in a fight in a forest or something, they go, "Oh, maybe we went a little too hard there." Having a red cap call follow up with your characters can have very interesting consequences because A, they look at this thing and they're horrified and they go, "Okay, we need to kill it now." Or they look at it and they go, "Okay, so it's gonna follow us. It just wants to see grisly murder." Because it wants to see grisly murder, we have to commit a grisly murder in the next 3 days. If it doesn't, well, now we're in trouble because it's going to try to kill one of us. And that's an easy way to create up a treason thing, especially if they're going through the Feywild and they're not familiar with Fey. The red cap is an easy introduction to. They're not all just tricksters. Some just want to kill and want to cause destruction. Red caps are that simple creature. Um, and that's the thing. They're slightly intelligent, which means they get common strategies, but in combat, they're gonna low level parts are gonna be fighting a single red cap. Now, a single red cap is dangerous on its own, and that's because of its stats. So your common red cap has strength of 18, dex 13, con 18, intelligence 10, wisdom 12, 9 charisma. Not the most charismatic thing. Skills have athletic perception, dark vision, passive perception 13. It knows common Sylvan and usually has about 45 hit points. 14 armor class and speed 25. Standard stat block. It has high con, decent strength, good no, not even decent strength. Good strength. Crazy good strength. Not a good movement speed. Most creatures could be outrun it, except for its special ability. It has disadvantage on stealth checks because it's always wearing these iron boots, and is treated as a medium creature um, when grappling. Pretty simple, and that just stops players from picking the thing up and stabbing it. This thing's gonna grapple at you. Now, 45 hit points isn't a lot, but to a level 3 characters, a 45 hit points is an end boss. Chewing through 45 hit points as a level 3 character who misses attacks, whose spells miss, who have very limited spell slots, are gonna have a difficult time with these, especially if they're in number. Red caps often come in number. Now, the problem comes in with its abilities. Wicked Sickle, +6 to attack, 5 feet, 2d4 +4 slashing. 2d4 +4 slashing, that's average maybe 8 damage. Now, 8 damage is a lot to somebody who only has 24 health, which means, and this thing can make 3 attacks. So anything with 24 or lower hit points with an AC less than, I want to say 16, yeah, no, this thing's gonna chew right through them and deal some damage. The other issue is its ironbound pursuit. Now, your players might think, we're going to get away from this thing. We're just going to keep our distance. It's only got 25 movements. We're going to force it to dash into us. No, ironbound pursuit. Uh, so it moves, speed 25, and then it can use its ironbound pursuit to move up to its speed to a creature it can see and kicks it with its boots. DC 14 dexterity saving throw or 20 damage average, 3d10 +4, bludgeoning, and be knocked prone. That is a debilitating attack, especially if these things are working in consort and they're very close in initiative, which they probably will be considering they all have +1s unless your rolls are wild. So this thing just runs up, dashes, kicks somebody, and they might take up to 34 damage. And that'll kill a level 3 character. Wizards don't stand a chance. Fighters might survive, assuming your rolls are decent. 20. Somebody's taking a lot of hit points at once, and that is a lot of damage. And that's just one of these things alone. That's how you open the fight, is with an ironbound pursuit against a weaker character. These things are intelligent. These things are fair. They know what a spellcaster looks like. Now, this thing can be overcome. And in groups, you can throw them against higher level characters. This is a group that you should throw against a higher level character where you throw 4 or 5 of them against somebody, and you just let the wizard fireball. You let the wizard have their fireball. And it's like, that is a good plan. Let the wizard fireball. Let them see all these red caps go up in smoke. or the ones that survive are now rushing in and everybody's got to deal with it. AoE spells against groups of these are nice because they have low hit points. Now, I'm not saying 45 isn't easy to chew through, but level 10 characters will blow these things away, which is what you kind of want at that point. If you're throwing these up against higher level characters, you're throwing it at them to have the fun of, um, you guys, here's how far you have come from your level 3 of almost dying to a single red cap. Here's 6 of them. Boom. Now, I talked about the Tome of Beasts. Um, the Tome of Beasts, red cap. And no, that's the Lion Drake. And that's because the Tome of Beasts red cap is a CR6, which means it can be a commander. Now, this thing has a lot of text. It has a lot of text. It has higher strength, lower dex, oddly enough, lower constitution, higher wisdom, less charisma. It gets less charismatic the stronger it is. Now, same kind of things, athletics, but this one has intimidation, saving throws on con 6. This is a stronger creature. Obviously, it has damage resistance. It can't be charmed or frightened, which I think is interesting considering that the red cap is a fey and the base red cap can be charmed. It knows Sylvan, Undercommon, and Common. Then it has its usual boots. Of course, it's got the cap ability that's only mentioned in the lore of the red cap, which means it's easy to change it without somebody looking at the stat blocks, the base stat block, and going, is this thing supposed to die after 3 days? Everyone goes, no, that's just lore. And it's like, oh, okay. But with this thing, it's an ability. Um, it needs to kill something and soak its hat in blood, which is why red caps are called red caps. They have to soak their hats in blood. Little more disgusting for you and a little more difficult to deal with, but yeah. And then it has 2 pike attacks and 1 bite attack. Its bite is a +8 hit, 2d8 +5 slashing, and then applies a bleed effect. Of course, DC 15, con saving throw, takes necrotic damage until the effect ends. Of course, if it saves, the effect ends, and if multi effects only stack, it can only take maximum of 10 damage a turn. And a 15 medicine or magical healing will deal with it. Only CR6. The reason why I say this thing can act as a commander is because it does not have the Ironbound Pursuit. Um, I I like lore wise that the red cap from Tome of Beasts is a red cap who realized that the iron boots were slowing it down. Um, you can see, I believe it has 30 feet of, it has 40 feet of movement. So it ditched the red boots. It ditched its iron boots. And so it's like, okay, it doesn't have ironbound pursuit. It still says it has disadvantage on stealth check because of clumping boots, which means it still kind of clumps around as if it was an iron boots. And lore and Tome of Beast does say that they do have iron boots, but it's easy to reflavor them. And it's important to reflavor your creatures as you're going. You want to make the creature work for you. Of course, it has a pike now instead of a sickle, which means that it has a reach of 10 feet. So how this thing operates in combat, it's a commander. It's what the red caps follow. They know this thing's stronger, so they kind of group behind them. And in a fight, it issues an order in Sylvan. The red caps come out in front. They all rush. It runs. It's 10 feet behind them, or base, it should be 10 feet in front of them, or 5 feet in front of them so it can close that gap. The rest of them, ironbound pursuit in. This thing's ready with its pike, and it goes. Like I said, basic strategy, nothing too complicated. They It's up ahead on travel because it's stronger, because um it's got resistances. If an animal jumps out at them, it won't attack them as easily from the front. Of course, as soon as a threat comes out, these things, the other red caps, get in front of it and immediately ironbound pursuit in. Now, this creates an interesting problem for your characters because if they're surprised, or or if they just have bad initiative rolls, when the fight starts and these red caps come out, and they use that strategy. If you have 3 or 4, Ironbound pursuing in at a level 10 party, DC 14 dex saves, it's like, "Okay, who's up front? The fighter? Okay, you're getting Ironbound pursued. I need a dex save. Ooh, you're at disadvantage. 14, fail, take 20." 20, 20, 20. You can chip away at that fighter really quickly. And then, of course, this guy comes in and goes pike attack. And then if it really gets into a scrape, it can bite down on somebody. Or if it actually kills, it'll go for the kill, soak its hat, and then bite down on them, ensuring the kill. I talk about this every once in a while. These are a group of redcaps. Because they're simple creatures, they're fantastic for random encounters, or not so random encounters, journey encounters. Because when you go at them, these red caps can pop out. They're from the Feywild, but they can spawn into the material world. So if they're anywhere near the Feywild or an opening to the Feywild, these things can pop out. So it's like, no, when they're fighting a group of red caps, when these things come charging in from 50 feet away, ironbound pursuing in, the party's gonna think they have a second. I'm going, oh, we're not in too much danger. They move 25 feet, immediately says ironbound pursuit, who's within 25 feet of him. Oh, he's 20 feet away. Boom. All the red caps are now on top of the party. This still gives the wizard the time to fireball. Because you're gonna be attacking a higher level party. Honestly, I think a group of red caps is a fun basic encounter for a level 10 party. It's not too dangerous. It's not too big. It's just there, and it'll chip away at health. But it might cause a threat to some players. You might have the fighter go down. They're just looking for blood, so they're going to attack whoever's right in front of them, assuming a wall gets formed. If not, these things are just going to be in the mess, tying down everybody, trying to kill everything. Honestly, I like the red cap. The red cap's a fun creature. And when you're using them in combat, and especially in consort in combat, there's so much that you can do to it and for it, because the red caps are at base just a lot of fun. And when you have these red caps going off at people, there's a lot that you can do. Now, like I said, these are simple creatures well made. And because they're simple creatures well made, there's a lot you can do with them. They can kind of go in anywhere. I honestly believe, yes, they can go in pretty much anywhere. And because they can slot in pretty much anywhere, they have the ability to cause a lot of problems and take down your hit points, show your party that this isn't going to be an easy dungeon. Now, of course, there's other ways to do this. There are always other ways to do this because, again, red caps can cause that problem. They're pretty dangerous. Now, of course, when the party falls, these things will kill them. I firmly believe I talk about this every time I talk about a monster, whether I feel like this monster will double tap. Now, DMs, you can talk about the ethics of double tapping your players. I'm fine with some monsters double tapping. Of course, the players realize immediately that these things double tap, and that causes chaos. That causes strategies to shift because you're no longer playing whack-a-mole. Because when this thing when one of these red caps come in with a sickle and they hit somebody down on the first strike, they're looking down and they're like, "It's not dead." Slash slash, and it goes, "It's not dead. Finish it off." Because they're murderers, they want the bloodshed. They just want to kill. So if they get the opportunity to take a kill, the kill that they need, they are going to take that opportunity. If somebody goes down, and because honestly, when you're making death saves, you're just unconscious, you're unconscious, bleeding out, you're still injured. A red cap sees that and goes, "It's just a victim not finished off." And it just goes in and takes them out. Red caps should be ruthless. You can cause a panic in your players by, if these things ironbound pursuit in after the fighter, and for some reason, whoever's up front, whether it be the fighter, the cleric, whoever's up front, if they don't have enough hit points and they take an ironbound pursuit or three and immediately go down, and then the last one comes up and then triple taps the guy. What? The party just watched their friend get brutally murdered. And not just murdered, the player who saw it saw these things come in and got triple tapped. And they made sure it was dead. And that's how you play it. These things honestly are double tappers and triple tappers. These things will hit you till you're dead. Um, which means the party has to change strategy. Because now it's okay, if we're level 10, they probably have diamonds and revivify if you're in a game that has that. Um, or they just realize they have to make a trip to a church. Honestly, if you're a DM in a game where you're essentially playing perm death, don't triple tab with a red cap. It's your discretion, but as a GM, I feel like the red cap is a creature that will triple tap an enemy. And because they'll triple tap an enemy, they're ones that you want to be aware that you could lose a player or two in the fight permanently. And so you don't run them unless you're prepared for that. And your party is prepared for that. For instance, my game has a cleric. Revivify is there. Of course, I have safeguards against playing whack-a-mole with Revivify. I like the idea, so I play with the idea of soul coins, where every person after they pass into the end of the world, the edge of life. They go into the realm of death, and their soul is manifested into a coin that they are given. Um, of course, this is their bond to their life body. They don't know they have it until they reach for it, or when they wake up after being revived, they have that coin. Which means if you sell your coin, if you lose that coin, if it's stolen, if you trade it to somebody. For instance, one of my players had a person, they needed to come back. The deity that they were uh, talking to bring him back, that deity was canonically dead. And so the other deities, of course, saw somebody praying and using the magic and everything, making the proper offering and going, instead of going, ignoring it, nothing happens. I went, no, no. So you're in the afterlife. You have these three beings sit before you and offer to bring you back. And I made two look absolutely sinister. And one look mysterious and not so sinister. And when it comes back, he takes the coin as collateral and he says, as you have a mission now. That's just something I do to stop permadeath. It has nothing to do with the actual like red cap or anything. It's just what I do. I think it's fun. It creates stakes for my players because when they come back, they realize, okay, if I go down again, I'm not coming back. If I die, I'm not coming back. And it's a way for me to tell the player, okay, be prepared for your story to end. Because I like the idea. I'm getting off track here. Some GMs have problems with uh player death and players dying. I don't. I fully come in. I say I'm not going to kill you purposefully, but if you make bad decisions, if a fight goes south, if the dice aren't in your favor, you could die. And that's why I allow Revivify, Resurrection, Reincarnate, um, that kind of thing. But I make it so the party has a cost to them. They have to find the church. Uh, they have to pay for resurrection. There's only a few people that can do resurrection, the usual D&D rules. But the player who comes back has a trauma to them at that point, the trauma of dying. And it's great because my players play that out. Trix has died. Frodo died. He actually lost his soul coin. And so people were really worried when he went down that he wasn't coming back. I'm trying to think of anybody else who doesn't have who lost their soul coin. I think he's the only one who lost their soul coin. Um, but that's the thing. And back to the red caps, that these things are tough. They're hard to kill. Be ready to lose a player. And your party needs to be aware of that. Your games, I argue that the threat of death should be there. It shouldn't be an ever lingering threat, but there should be moments. I joke about Destiny every once in a while, and I don't bring it up on Game Master's Arsenal, um, about what are called darkness zones where you can't revive. Uh, darkness zones, essentially. My players know that as soon as they step into a dungeon, death is on the table. As soon as the fight breaks out, death is on the table. Uh, if you're just wandering through the woods, you might not have death on the table. If you're in political intrigue, I mean, the threat's there, but it's not necessarily on the table, but as soon as you step into one of my dungeons, as soon as you step into my game, my zone, death is on the table. And my players know that by how hard my fights are and how hard bosses are and how hard my dungeons are, that death is on the table. And I think death should be on the table in games because it is something that players may not be okay. And I always ask this question when a player dies because I do not bring them back in the same session. I beat them after the session or immediately after the session or towards the end to tell them what happens when they pass and then ask them a very important question. This is a very important question you need to ask your player. Are you okay with your story ending here? Are you okay with your story ending here? And some players go, yeah, I'm okay with my story ending here. I go, cool. Um, they're gonna attempt a revival next week. I know. If the soul has to be willing, if you want a new character, roll up a new character. But they're gonna try to revive if you come back. Unless there's something stopping it. So in the instance of Frodo, when he dies and permanently dies, I went. It was a very impactful moment. They needed him in the session, but he didn't have a soul coin. They would not survive this dungeon without him. He's in that. It was that hard of a dungeon. They were all out of mechanics, and he was the fighter. Um, he goes down and he dies, and I go, "Are you okay with your story ending here?" And he goes, "No, no, I'm not okay with my story ending here." And I go, "Okay." And I'm like, "You know, you lost your soul coin. I'm going to bring. They are going to revive you. I know they are. I'm going to bring you back. But your story will not end here. I will be taking your character after this dungeon for a while." And Frodo has become a servant of the enemy. And I go, "Yes, perfect. Frodo is now a servant of the enemy." And so it changes it. I go, "Don't bring back a new character until the end of the dungeon. When you do, know that Frodo is alive. It's only temporary." And of course, when my plan is that when they finally confront Frodo, they are going to have the means to not only purge his corruption, but have had the chance to reclaim his coin to bring him back. Because whatever's inside him now is not Frodo. Whatever's inside him now is not his soul. Unfortunately, his soul has passed on. I haven't told Frodo that. So if he watches the episode, his soul has passed on. So when he comes back, he will have the trauma of being dead for such a long time and then being forced back because I play death as a very unless my the afterlife in my game is not um heaven hell. It is not the hells. It is not that. Death, of course, Dula is the deity of death. She waits on the other side in her garden. She waits for you. She wants you to tell her your story. When she gets there, she always says one thing that's very important, I think, for every player to hear. You were magnificent. And of course, when they get ripped away, when they get revived, if they have met Dula, she always says one thing, "I can't wait to see you again." Because my death in my game is ever present. Um it is patient. It waits. It knows it is inevitable. When it looks at somebody, it goes, "Yes. Yes, you come. Your story is done. Be at peace." Um, and when the villains come, they go, "You were a magnificent villain. You played horrendous for my heroes, and they conquered you." And of course, I play this. There's two deities. There's the deity of life and death. There's Lival and Dula. Dula is the deity of death. She waits on the other side. She is a focal point of a lot of the lore of the world because her death caused the gods to leave the physical world. Um, and Leval is her twin sister who feels responsible for the death of Dula. Um, and so she knows Dula passes on. In fact, what she did is they used to create souls together and lives together and spin them out. And then when Dula died and one of the souls was revived, it talked about meeting Dula, and that's when Laval realized she's still there. So stopped being just the life giver, but she started shepherding them on to the end. When they go, there's a veil that their soul passes through, and I play that out when player says my story will end here. They don't want to be revived. Once they pass beyond that veil, they're gone. There's a rift in between them, and once you pass beyond it, you are not coming back. So they wait on with Leval, and if they meet Dula, they can be forced back, um, but they can choose not to. Meeting Dula is the end. It is, I can't wait to see when they get forced back. If they met Dula, I can't wait to see you again. Tell me your story, please. Tell me what gift you were given. And it's good way to tie up, honestly. I got off topic with the Redcaps just talking about my campaign. Maybe I'll talk about my campaign level later and the deific structure and the structure to it, because honestly I enjoy my world, and I love talking about it. But I've gone off topic and over time. I'm your GM Isaiah. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and that's where we're gonna leave it. Oh, of course, give us that like, subscribe, follow, and watch the next episode. Also leaving a comment